Congress is back in Washington, and the clock to the midterm elections is running out. They have a massive pipeline of conservative legislation to clear before voters go to the polls. With a multi-trillion-dollar agenda on the table, the obvious assumption is that the Democratic minority is doing everything possible to stall the votes. This flowchart illustrates the real bottleneck. The opposition party is not stopping the conservative agenda. The Republican conference is fighting itself, jamming the legislative pipeline from the inside. For President Trump, the stakes are entirely internal. The greatest threat to his second-term legacy comes directly from the unforced errors of his own party. To understand why Washington is paralyzed right now, we have to drop the standard two-party rivalry and look closely at the friendly fire happening inside the GOP. Last week, Republicans were perfectly positioned to pass a massive $72 billion budget reconciliation package designed specifically to fund ICE and the Border Patrol. Then, the Trump Department of Justice dropped a surprise request. They wanted a $1.8 to $2 billion anti-weaponization fund inserted into the deal. Senate Republicans immediately derailed the package. They demanded to know if this taxpayer money was going to be paid out to people convicted of assaulting police officers during the January 6th Capitol riots. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche went behind closed doors to explain the fund, but failed to give the Senate conference the guarantees they were looking for. The issue remains entirely unresolved. By dropping a highly controversial demand at the last minute, the administration managed to paralyze their own top immigration priority, turning a guaranteed legislative victory into a standstill. Congress is also staring down a fast-approaching June 12th deadline to reauthorize Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. This is the law that governs how the government monitors foreign nationals, and the administration wants a straightforward, clean extension. This diagram shows the unusual political alignment holding the spy law hostage. The far left and the far right have completely bypassed the political center, linking up to demand strict privacy reforms before they allow a vote. Conservative privacy hawks like Florida Senator Rick Scott are driving these demands. They want loopholes closed that allow the government to buy sensitive data from brokers, and they are insisting on warrants before Americans' communications can be swept up in foreign surveillance. Because of these internal ideological tests, critical national security infrastructure is currently stuck in limbo. Over in the House of Representatives, the problem is even simpler. People aren't showing up. Poor attendance recently forced GOP leadership to cancel a scheduled vote that would have protected the president's Iran war powers. Those empty seats handed Democrats the leverage they needed to force fractured, on-the-record votes regarding a $1.3 billion military aid package for Ukraine. These cascading delays are now eating into the floor time required to pass the National Defense Authorization Act, the colossal $1.15 trillion package that funds the Pentagon. As the calendar gets crowded, future ambitions are being crushed. Representative August Pfluger and his Republican Study Committee have been pushing a massive new package focused on energy and housing affordability, but it is quickly losing its window. Failing at procedural basics, like having enough members in the room to win a vote, is causing the party's entire legislative supply chain to collapse. This timeline lays out the congressional schedule from June to November. While it looks like months remain, that space is an illusion. Congress leaves town for August, and October is blocked for campaign travel. That leaves only a tiny sliver of active voting weeks. The border bill wasn't killed by a Democratic amendment. The surveillance law isn't waiting on Democratic holdouts, and the war powers vote wasn't canceled due to external pressure. The true obstacle to the conservative agenda is a fractured Republican Party that cannot govern itself, watching its own clock run out.